My name is John Patterson, over here. Okay.
Thanks.
My name is John Patterson. I live at 1467 Madden Drive. I had some questions about the MS4 fee, and I regret that I was not able to be here when the major meeting took place in the early fall or late summer. Wasn't able to be here, but I've read about it in the newspaper, I've learned a little bit about it, read the ordinance about 2 months ago. I didn't have a chance to reread it tonight, but I have a few questions for you. Has this ordinance been passed primarily because the Department of Environmental Protection has basically said you have to do it?
Ultimately, yes.
Okay. So it really is a state mandate?
Federal.
Federal. Okay, so it starts at the federal. And does it go through the state, or is it just directly from the federal government to you folks?
Mr.
Through the
Hughes?
state. Yeah.
Federal to the state.
Federal to
To
the
us.
state. In terms of the description, impervious surfaces, I was a little confused in the ordinance and in some of the newspaper articles about why impervious surfaces were being assessed a user fee. I think, or at least what I understand, is that the fee is assessed because impervious surfaces eventually shed or cause things to flow into the sewer system.
That's what collects water.
Okay,
So the impervious surface would be the roof or the driveway or any
Okay.
accessory structure on a property,
oh,
like a
roof?
shed.
Roof also?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. Just referring to cement or asphalt here, what if a piece of property has a lot of impervious surface, or maybe not a lot, maybe a small amount, but none of it does, cause an overflow of water into the sewer
It
system?
all does. It all eventually ends up, some of it gets absorbed by yards and stuff,
Okay,
but eventually it runs off.
so it's actually not just the impervious system
That's
or pavement, but the ordinance is assuming that whether it's cement,
Well, cement can't take
causing-
water in.
right.
It has to run off of the
Right.
cement.
Well, yeah, it has to run off, but what if it just simply goes
There's
into
a fee for even
surrounding?
unoccupied property, but it's much, much smaller
Okay,
for vacant property.
but what if it just runs off
Well,
into adjacent property,
think I
which is
understand-
grass or?
Right, I think I understand your question.
yeah.
But it's not so much that they're not looking at the impact of the individual properties, they're looking at the global impact of all the properties.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the most equitable way of dividing up the fees, was to
Right.
go by the impervious
Okay.
surface.
Right.
So every residential property gets charged the same amount, whether you have a large driveway or a small driveway.
Right.
And then that, which is a one ERU, that's one unit, then that is overlaid over top commercial properties, and that's how that fee is then calculated for those properties.
So if the cement or asphalt section of the property actually does not flow into a sewer, or doesn't cause water or whatever substance it is on it that's liquid to flow into a sewer, it still is to be assessed?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay. I'll give you a little opinion here. I think it's more of a tax. I know that you want to avoid that like the plague, but when I look at, say, one side of my street where everybody's driveway does point towards the street and their roofs are going to flow that way and it's all going into the sewer system on the street, and my side doesn't, I understand that I, as a good neighbor, am going to help to pay for all of that. And yet, to me, that's more of a tax than a user fee, because I'm not really using it anywhere near as much as my neighbor. So if it's an equity situation, it would just seem to me to be a tax.
The reason why it's not a tax is because everybody pays it. The churches pay it, the fire companies pay it,
Right.
Not-
I understand, and if you made it a
Hospitals.
tax, they wouldn't pay it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we would have to pay it.
And the federal government, along with the state, said, you may implement a fee to help pay for these things that we expect you to do, but it has to be fair and it has to be everybody.
I did read in the newspaper recently that one of the nonprofit entities, might be an educational institution, is going to fight it based on their reading of the law that says you cannot assess a nonprofit institution anything even resembling a tax. Now, that's my interpretation, but I'm asking about that.
We'll see where that goes.
Okay, all right, okay. As an aside, is there anything you can call it other than MS4? That sounds very Orwellian or
Well,
something.
that's the way it's known nationwide.
Okay, all right. So this is really a dictate of the federal government, is basically.
Every
Yes.
community
Well,
in
what
the Commonwealth
happened
is going to
in
be faced
short
with this.
is the state and federal, mainly the federal government, got tired of bailing out communities who did nothing to improve their stormwater management, let alone all the after sediment, which is another big project they added on to us. They don't want it going down to the rivers. So they are charging with each community with taking care of it yourself. So there's a lot of stuff, of work and projects involved in MS4, not just stormwater pipes, you know. And sediment control is probably even larger than the rest of it, because all that sediment that comes out of the mouth of those pipes, we have to control it. We have to do something with it now.
Just one final question on it. What is the building that is going to be built in conjunction with the ordinance?
It's to house the new
Equipment.
equipment.
Okay.
And the back part of it would be fenced into, so they can order,
Near the current sewage or sewer authority?
no, it'd be
Building.
down at the Public Works garage.
Okay,